The cosmos was vast, silent, and indifferent. Humanity, still considered a fledgling species by the galaxy's elite, was confined to the Sol system, its sparks of ambition invisible against the brilliance of 1,000 advanced civilizations. That perception, however, was about to change. The alien observers called themselves the Virilians, a species with crystalline exoskeletons and minds honed over millennia. Their technology made lightspeed travel trivial, and their fleets dominated countless star systems. To them, humans were an amusing experiment, a species of fragile organic flesh that barely mastered warp drives. Another primitive species attempting interstellar expansion, the Virilian commander hissed through his translator crystal. They will burn themselves out as all inferior races do. On board the human spaceship HSS Intrepid, Captain Alara Voss watched the viewscreen. The stars outside streaked past as the ship accelerated toward the edge of Virilian territory. Her crew, diverse, brilliant, and fiercely loyal, monitored alien communications intercepted by their quantum eavesdropping arrays. "Captain," said Lieutenant Ryo Tanaka, the chief strategist, tapping on the holographic map. "We've detected the Virilian patrols ahead. 3 cruisers, fully armed, scanning for intruders. They'll notice us the moment we approach their sector." Alara's jaw tightened. "Good. Let them notice. The galaxy underestimates us. That's exactly why we're here." Their mission was simple on paper: gather intelligence, establish a foothold near the Virilian border, and prove humanity's capability for survival beyond their own system. In reality, it was a gamble that could destroy every soul aboard. The Virilian Armada loomed like a jagged constellation of death. Each ship was the size of a small moon, crystalline hulls refracting distant starlight into deadly beams. Yet the Intrepid, a single sleek vessel, glided forward, seemingly fragile but armed with humanity's most ingenious creations: adaptive cloaking, quantum decoy drones, and AI-driven tactical algorithms designed for rapid improvisation. "Sensors are detecting—" "Wait, impossible," whispered Ryo. "They're scanning but they can't lock on. It's like we're evaporating from their sensors." Alara smiled. "Human innovation is underestimated. Let's make history." The first contact was almost anticlimactic. A single Virilian cruiser detached from the Armada and sent a communication pulse. The vessel's voice, a crystalline resonance that grated against human ears, translated through their systems. "You are intruders. Surrender. Your existence is irrelevant to the order of the galaxy." Alara stepped forward, her voice steady. "We are humans, irrelevant to no one, and certainly not to ourselves. We choose to exist, and we choose to challenge those who assume superiority." The Virilians paused, their sensors unable to detect the subquantum cloaking that allowed the Intrepid to appear and disappear at will. For the first time in millennia, the Virilians felt a flicker of uncertainty. "Do you perceive what you are doing?" the Virilian commander asked, the translation faltering under human sarcasm and confidence. "You are fragile. You are insignificant." "Perhaps," Alara said, eyes narrowing, "but insignificance is not weakness. It's opportunity." Over the next several hours, a dangerous game unfolded. The Intrepid darted through asteroid fields, weaving between patrols, using planetary shadows to hide from detection. When the Virilians attempted to fire, human AI-driven countermeasures deflected the attacks with pinpoint precision, forcing the alien fleet to waste energy and resources. Ryo leaned over the tactical console. "Captain, they're getting desperate. Their patterns are repeating, trying to predict us. They can't, they've never seen tactics like this." "Good," Alara murmured. "Desperation leads to mistakes." It came sooner than anyone expected. A massive Virilian cruiser, twice the size of the others, attempted a pincer maneuver to trap the Intrepid. Its weapons charged with lethal resonance beams, capable of vaporizing the human ship in seconds. Alara took a deep breath. "Initiate the decoy sequence. Follow Protocol Omega-9. We're going to lead them straight into the asteroid belt." The Intrepid disappeared from sensors, only to reappear seconds later, just beyond the asteroid's jagged edge. The Virilian cruiser, blinded by the decoys, collided with a hidden asteroid, tearing open its hull. For the first time, humans witnessed the alien fear that had seemed impossible to stir. "Did they just crash into an asteroid?" gasped Lieutenant Mira Solis, the ship's navigator. "They're supposed to be flawless." Alara's gaze was steely. "Flawless until they met humans. Until they faced ingenuity. Until they realized we do not fight like anyone else." The aftermath was tense. Across the galactic communications channels, other species observed in awe. Word of the Intrepid's daring maneuvers spread quickly. A single human ship, outsmarting a fleet of centuries-old warships. Rumors of human unpredictability began to ripple through the Virilian hierarchy, and whispers of a species that could rewrite the rules of engagement reached the council chambers of distant star empires. By the time the Intrepid retreated safely to a nearby uncharted planet, the galaxy's perception of humanity had begun to shift. The Virilians, once smug and confident, were now forced to reconsider the intelligence of a species they had mocked. On the planet's surface, under the pale glow of twin suns, Ilara looked at her crew. Sweat and relief mingled on tired faces, yet their eyes shone with something indomitable. "They thought we were fragile," she said softly. "They thought we were small. But the galaxy will learn, humans adapt. Humans endure. And humans can win against all odds." Above them, the stars stretched endlessly, as if anticipating the storm humanity was about to unleash. The Virilians were not the only watchers in the galactic theater. Across countless light years, empires of unimaginable power observed the human incursion near Virilian space with a mix of curiosity, amusement, and unease. To them, humanity had been a curiosity, a tiny, insignificant species that flailed helplessly in the void. Yet whispers of the Intrepid's exploits began to ripple through interstellar councils like wildfire. In the Galactic Concordium, a vast coalition of advanced species whose combined fleets could level stars, the news of a single human vessel outmaneuvering a Virilian armada caused a rare stir. Council chambers buzzed with debates, echoing across the holographic expanse of the Concordium's central command station. Ambassador Zyril Koth, a towering cephalopod-like being with 6 articulate tentacles, slammed one limb onto the council table. "Are you saying a single human ship evaded and destroyed elements of a Virilian fleet? Is this factually verified?" His deep, resonant voice vibrated through the chamber. "Yes," replied Ambassador Liara Ven, representing the Oraxi Dominion. Her crystalline body shimmered in the holographic projection. "The reports come from multiple sources, including Virilian internal logs. Their sensors cannot even comprehend the maneuvers. Humans, according to every measure we have, should have been annihilated on first contact." A murmur spread through the council. Shock, disbelief, and fear mingled like static electricity. Species known for millennia of interstellar supremacy were quietly nervous. Meanwhile, aboard the HSS Intrepid, Captain Ilara Voss and her crew were far from idle. The uncharted planet they had landed on was an oasis of hidden resources, rich deposits of rare elements critical for energy shields and sublight propulsion. While the crew refueled, repaired minor damage, and gathered intelligence, the real work had already begun, planning the next phase of humanity's unprecedented challenge. Lieutenant Ryo Tanaka adjusted the tactical display. "Captain, I've been analyzing the Virilian fleet's communications. They're scrambling to re-establish control. But listen to this, they've already started discussing a preemptive strike on our home system." Ilara's eyes narrowed. "Then we can't wait. We strike first, strategically, not recklessly. Humanity doesn't just survive, we dominate when necessary." The crew worked feverishly to convert the planet into a temporary forward base. Using adaptive camouflage, human engineers constructed sensor outposts and decoy structures, giving the illusion of a bustling settlement while remaining virtually invisible. Drones were deployed to map nearby asteroid fields and nebulae, perfect for ambushes. "We're turning their arrogance against them," said Mira Solis, navigating the holographic star charts. "The Virilians think we're predictable. We'll show them the opposite." Back in Virilian space, the alien high command was in chaos. Admiral Tyrell Vox, a figure as cold and precise as a diamond blade, could not understand how a primitive species executed tactics that defied centuries of military doctrine. "They're clever. Too clever. Impossible," he muttered, his crystalline form vibrating with frustration. "Perhaps we underestimated them," said a junior officer, fear flickering in its multifaceted eyes. "They are small but adaptable. Calculating. They use their limitations as weapons." Vox froze, the weight of the realization hitting like a supernova. "Adaptable, yes. They may be small, but in chaos they thrive. They may even survive the Armada." The first shockwave of galactic politics came when smaller empires began quietly reaching out to the human mission, intrigued by reports of the Intrepid. Offers of alliances, trade routes, and intelligence sharing came, couched in caution but tinged with hope. Humanity was no longer a curiosity, it was a variable the galaxy could not ignore. On the forward planet, Ilara called a meeting with her senior officers. The galaxy thinks we are insignificant. That perception is a weapon. We will use it. But make no mistake, this is more than survival. We are setting a precedent. Every species that doubts humanity will soon understand our strength, our cunning, and our will to endure. Rio spoke up, pointing to a holographic display of the Virilian fleet's predicted movements. Captain, if we strike their supply lines and key relays in the nearby systems, we can cripple their logistics without engaging the full armada. We force them to fight on our terms. We force them to chase shadows. Ilara's lips curved into a determined smile. Perfect. Prepare the strike teams. Every drone, every cloaked vessel, every sensor node, we use them to sow confusion. We hit where it hurts and we disappear before they can react. The galaxy thinks humans are fragile. Let's prove them wrong. As night fell under the twin suns, the Intrepid's crew worked tirelessly, refining strategies that would soon echo across light years. Each calculation was a thread in a tapestry of human ingenuity, each maneuver a testament to the species' capacity for improvisation. The first attack came at dawn. Small, almost invisible ships emerged from hidden warp points, striking Virilian supply convoys with surgical precision. Explosions lit the void as vital resources vanished in the blink of an eye. The Virilians responded, but every countermeasure was anticipated, every ambush foreseen. Humanity's ghostly presence left no trace, only devastation. Back in the Concordium, council members watched with growing unease. These humans, they do not fight like any species we know, said Zyrokoth. Their adaptability, their audacity, it is frightening. What if they are the exception, the apex intelligence we underestimated? Liara Ven's voice trembled slightly. They may very well be. The galaxy's perception of humanity was shifting from amusement to alarm. And as the sun rose over the human forward base, Ilara Voss looked out across the alien horizon. She whispered to herself, barely audible over the hum of the ship's systems. Let them underestimate us. Let them mock us. Soon, every star, every fleet, every empire will learn that humanity is not fragile. Humanity is unstoppable. And somewhere in the shadow of distant Virilian systems, a fleet commander clenched his crystalline hands. The name of the humans, once meaningless, now carried the weight of dread across the stars. The galaxy had started to murmur the name humans. Once a curiosity, now a threat. The Virilians, humiliated by a single vessel's daring raids, could not allow their prestige to crumble. Admiral Tyrell Vox convened an emergency council aboard the Eclipse Citadel, a fortress the size of a small moon, its crystalline spires bristling with weapons capable of obliterating entire planets. They strike without warning, Vox said, his voice reverberating like breaking glass. They destroy our supply lines, outmaneuver patrols, and vanish like shadows. This is no longer a minor annoyance. This is war. Council members shivered. No species had ever bested Virilian tactics so decisively. The human approach was chaotic genius, a form of warfare the Virilians could not model. Meanwhile, aboard the HSS Intrepid, Ilara Voss and her crew prepared for the inevitable storm. Their intelligence networks had detected movement across multiple sectors. Dozens of Virilian cruisers assembling into a fleet of unprecedented scale. Captain, Rio Tanaka said, scanning the holographic map, they've mobilized 7 full battle divisions. That's over 300 ships, armed with quantum torpedoes and resonance cannons capable of planetary annihilation. Ilara studied the projection. Her mind raced, calculating risks, opportunities, and probabilities. They think overwhelming force guarantees victory. They haven't met humans yet. Ready the decoy drones, charge the cloaking arrays, and deploy the quantum misdirection grid. We don't survive by brute strength. We survive by being unpredictable. The Intrepid emerged from hyperspace in the edge of Virilian space, small and unassuming against the backdrop of the colossal Armada. For a moment, it seemed absurd, a single human ship daring to confront a fleet capable of obliterating star systems. But absurdity was humanity's greatest weapon. Admiral Vox, Ilara transmitted across the void, her voice calm and commanding, "We come unarmed. Surrender your arrogance, and perhaps your species will live to see another star." Vox's response was a distorted howl of crystalline rage. "You are insignificant. You will be eradicated." The first salvo was annihilating. Hundreds of resonance beams streaked across the void, meant to incinerate the Intrepid instantly. But the ship twisted, vanished, and reappeared using the quantum misdirection grid. Torpedoes detonated against empty space, each explosion a monument to human ingenuity. Captain, they're forming a trap, Mira Solis said, eyes wide. The fleet is converging on 3 vectors. If we stay here, we're toast. Good, Ilara said, a grim smile forming. Then we will choose the battlefield. Prepare for the orbital skirmish above Virilia Prime. It's dense with asteroid belts and magnetic storms. Perfect for us, deadly for them. The human ship lured the Armada toward the planet, weaving through electromagnetic turbulence and asteroid clusters. Each maneuver was calculated, exploiting Virilian overconfidence. When the fleet attempted to concentrate fire, the Intrepid split perception with holographic decoys, creating illusions of dozens of vessels where there was only one. From the command deck of Eclipse Citadel, Vox's frustration boiled into fury. Impossible. They are everywhere and nowhere. Their tactics defy all logic. Engage the subspace disruptors. Flatten the system. Subspace disruptors, ancient, devastating weapons, fired, creating ripples in spacetime meant to tear apart the human ship. But Ilara had anticipated this. The Intrepid dove into a magnetically charged asteroid cluster, using gravitational anomalies to bend the disruptor beams back into the Virilian fleet. Entire cruisers were shredded by their own weapons, crystalline hulls scattering like broken glass. Rio's voice trembled with a mix of exhilaration and disbelief. Captain, they just destroyed themselves, using their own firepower. Ilara's eyes were steel. We fight smarter. Humans don't win by being bigger. We win by being cleverer. But the victory came with a cost. Sensors detected a hidden Virilian dreadnought emerging from hyperspace, a behemoth designed to counter any single ship capable of unpredictability. Its sheer mass dwarfed the Intrepid, and its energy shields shimmered with invulnerability. Captain, this one, we can't outmaneuver it conventionally, Rio said. Ilara's lips pressed into a thin line. Then we don't fight it conventionally. Prepare the temporal phase disruptor. We're going to bend time itself to make one shot count. The human crew worked feverishly. Using a combination of quantum tunneling and subspace projection, the Intrepid created a temporal loop, allowing them to strike the dreadnought's weak point repeatedly in the span of a single instant. Explosions tore through the alien hull with horrifying efficiency. The dreadnought, invincible by all conventional measures, shattered in seconds. Across the Armada, silence spread. No species could reconcile the destruction of a vessel that had been designed to be undefeatable. Admiral Vox's voice, trembling with rage and disbelief, echoed in the void. This is impossible. They are humans. Ilara transmitted once more, her voice calm, almost intimate. Yes, Admiral. Humans. Fragile, yes. Predictable, never. Underestimated, always. But remember this, we fight not for fear, not for glory, but because we can. As the Armada retreated, leaving the system in disarray, Ilara allowed herself a moment to exhale. Around her, the crew exchanged glances filled with a mixture of awe and exhaustion. Humanity had survived against impossible odds. Humanity had demonstrated, for the first time on a galactic scale, that it was a force beyond calculation. Yet the victory carried a darker truth. The galaxy was taking note. Every empire, every council, every fleet would soon understand that the humans were not merely survivors. They were a species capable of bending the rules of the universe itself. Above the smoking wreckage of the Armada, the stars gleamed like distant witnesses. And somewhere in a command chamber far from Sol, alien leaders whispered with fear and begrudging respect. The humans, they are not insignificant. They are the storm. The galaxy had begun to tremble at the mention of humanity. What had started as curiosity had become fear, an opportunity. For the first time, species across star systems questioned their assumptions about the fragile creatures of Sol. In the galactic concordium, council chambers shimmered with tension. Species that had once ignored Earth as a backwater world now whispered, debated, and schemed. Some saw opportunity, others saw threat. But all agreed on one point: humans could not be ignored. Ambassador Zyril Koth, the cephalopodic envoy whose tentacles had once slammed tables in disbelief, now addressed the chamber gravely. They are clever, adaptive, unpredictable. Every fleet we've sent against them falters. Every strategy, every calculation fails. And yet, they are but a single system. Imagine what they could do with allies, with resources. Whispers of unease swept across the chamber. Every species felt the tremor of a storm they had underestimated. Meanwhile, on the planet Kalara Prime, hidden in the neutral territories, Captain Ilara Vos convened a secret council with her crew and the few allies humanity had quietly cultivated. The humans had begun reaching out to smaller empires, species oppressed by Virilian hegemony, systems tired of the Armada's dominance. Each species has a grievance, Ryo Tanaka explained, projecting holographic star charts of alien systems. They fear the Virilians, yet they also fear us. But our strength is credibility. We show them that humans win against impossible odds. That earns respect. Fear, yes, but also trust. Elara nodded. We do not beg for alliances. We earn them. We offer a future where their survival depends on joining us, because together we can resist domination. But first, we must demonstrate our capability beyond combat. Mira Solis, the navigator, projected images of strategic resources in distant systems. We can repair the mining networks of the Araxi Dominion. Supply routes, energy conduits, they've been crippled by the Virilians. We can offer efficiency, speed, and results they cannot achieve themselves. Rio leaned forward. And in return they provide safe harbor, intelligence, and fleet support. The galaxy underestimates humans because they focus on force. But influence is far more dangerous. Elara smiled faintly. Then we play the long game. The first tentative diplomatic contact was with the Araxi Dominion, whose crystalline envoys had once scoffed at humanity's existence. Now they were eager. In orbit around a neutral moon, humans and Araxi diplomats met aboard the Intrepid's temporary forward station, a marvel of adaptive engineering and stealth technology. The Araxi ambassador's crystalline eyes studied Elara warily. You offer resources, and yet you are a fledgling species. Why should we trust humans? Elara's gaze was unwavering. Because we are the species that outsmarted your oppressors. We are the species that turned impossibility into victory. We do not merely survive. We thrive. And in your cooperation there is safety and profit for you. 4 hours, negotiations stretched into tense silence, punctuated by subtle displays of human ingenuity, holographic simulations of resource distribution, predictive modeling of Virilian movements, and advanced logistics planning. By the end, the Araxi agreed, not out of faith but necessity. Humanity had proven they were indispensable. While diplomacy unfolded, the Virilians were regrouping in fury. Admiral Vox, humiliated by the Intrepid's previous victories, demanded vengeance. They manipulate lesser species, Vox seethed. They turn allies against us. If we cannot crush them with force, we will starve them, isolate them, extinguish them by attrition. But the galaxy's political landscape had already shifted. Smaller empires, emboldened by humanity's daring, began covert operations, supply raids, intelligence sharing, and even sabotage of Virilian shipyards. Humans had become a catalyst, sparking rebellion across the Armada's dominions. Elara monitored these developments aboard the Intrepid. They think fleets define power. We've shown them influence is power. And now, we turn it into momentum. Every alliance, every strategic decision, every small victory weakens them. The first joint operation came within weeks. A combined human-Araxi strike targeted a critical Virilian communications hub in a densely nebula-shrouded system. The hub controlled hundreds of patrol fleets, and its destruction would cause widespread disarray. Once we hit, Rio said, Virilian response times will be measured in hours, not minutes. Chaos will reign in the Armada. Elara's hands rested on the control console. Then we hit. Precision, timing, coordination. One strike, and they'll realize the galaxy is no longer theirs to command unchallenged. The attack was surgical. Cloaked human vessels darted in like shadows, while Araxi ships, guided by human tactical simulations, struck weak points in the hub's defense. Explosions ignited across the nebula, painting streaks of orange and blue against the black void. The Virilians scrambled, but every attempt to repair or retaliate was anticipated by human-directed intelligence. By the end, the hub was in ruins. Across multiple sectors, Virilian patrols were thrown into disarray. For the first time, an empire known for absolute control experienced true vulnerability. Back aboard the Intrepid, the crew shared a quiet moment. Elara looked at her team, exhaustion etched on every face. This is only the beginning. Humanity is no longer fighting just to survive. Humanity is shaping the galaxy. Every choice, every alliance, every strike brings us closer to the apex. And they will learn, no species underestimates humans and remains unshaken. In distant corridors of power, alien leaders whispered the same thought, now tinged with fear. The humans, they are not merely resilient. They are cunning. They are unstoppable. And they will change everything. Above the nebula, the stars stretched endlessly, as if bearing witness to the rise of a species that would no longer be overlooked. Humanity had learned to wield diplomacy as effectively as war, and the galaxy was trembling. The galaxy was no longer a calm expanse of stars. It had become a battlefield, and humanity, once dismissed as fragile, was the spark that ignited the flames. The Virilians, humiliated and enraged by the loss of their communications hub and the unexpected alliances forming around the humans, declared open war. Their armada, now numbering 500 ships, surged across sectors, aiming to crush humanity and their allies in a single decisive blow. "Captain," Ryo Tanaka said from the tactical console aboard the HSS Intrepid, "our intelligence indicates they're consolidating in the Draven Expanse. A cluster of nebulae and asteroid fields. Perfect for ambush, but they have numbers on their side. Hundreds of ships. Millions of weapons systems. We can't meet them head-on." Ilara Voss's eyes narrowed. "Then we don't meet them head-on. We make them fight on our terms." Across the galaxy, smaller empires, once oppressed and silenced, mobilized under humanity's guidance. Human strategy combined diplomacy, deception, and battlefield brilliance. Fleets moved in silence, hidden by cloaks, gravitational anomalies, and human-designed holographic decoys. Where brute force failed, cunning prevailed. "Prepare the temporal phase decoys," Ilara ordered. "And Rio, synchronize every strike with the asteroid belt. They will fire, and we will bend their own attacks against them." The first engagement was terrifying in scale. The Draven Expanse erupted in a cacophony of energy beams, explosions, and warships darting through nebula clouds. Virilian cruisers fired in volleys meant to annihilate human ships instantly. But the Intrepid led them into a deadly maze of magnetic anomalies, subspace distortions, and asteroid fields. "Captain," Mira Solis shouted, "they've deployed gravitic mines. If we misstep, we're toast." Ilara's calm voice cut through the tension. "Then we step exactly where they think we won't. Follow the grid. Timing is everything." As the Virilians advanced, human forces executed their traps flawlessly. Cloaked vessels darted between asteroids, launching drones that mimicked entire fleets. Resonance cannons fired into projected positions, causing massive friendly fire among alien ships. Every Virilian attempt to regroup fell into human-designed chaos. Amid the battlefield, a hidden dreadnought emerged, the Virilians' answer to human unpredictability. A hulking mass of energy shields, weapons, and sheer kinetic force. Its first volleys tore through a human support frigate, sending fragments tumbling through the void. "Captain," Rio said grimly, "we can't outgun it directly." Ilara's lips pressed together. "Then we outthink it." She tapped into the Intrepid's AI network, coordinating thousands of drones and allied ships. Using predictive algorithms and a calculated barrage of decoys, they made the dreadnought see hundreds of Intrepids in every direction. The massive ship fired blindly, its own weapons striking friendly vessels. Each misstep amplified confusion. And when the moment was right, the Intrepid used the temporal phase disruptor, the same weapon that shattered the previous dreadnought, bending spacetime to strike the enemy's weak point repeatedly in an instant. The colossal ship disintegrated in a burst of crystalline shards, leaving the Virilian fleet shaken and leaderless. Rio's voice was almost a whisper. "Captain, we did it. Against impossible odds." Ilara's gaze was unwavering. "We do not do the impossible. We do what humans do best. Adapt, improvise, survive, and dominate." Even as victory seemed near, the battlefield turned personal. A Virilian commander, one who had survived the dreadnought's destruction, focused every remaining ship on the Intrepid itself. Energy beams lanced the void, cutting through nebula clouds like molten fire. Ilara called to her crew, "Brace for impact, but remember, we are humans. Unpredictable. Indestructible in spirit. Execute the decoy maneuvers Gamma 7. Now." The Intrepid vanished from sight, leaving only a decoy fleet that drew the enemy's fire. When it reappeared behind the main Virilian formation, it launched a coordinated strike that crippled every flagship and destroyed their remaining energy reserves. The battle was over. Humanity had won again, but this victory was more than survival, it was a message to the galaxy. Across star systems, intelligence networks recorded the outcome. Humans had turned a potential massacre into a decisive triumph using ingenuity, strategy, and adaptability. Entire species began to reconsider their place in the galaxy's hierarchy. In the aftermath, Ilara convened her senior officers. The battlefield was a tableau of shattered alien ships, drifting asteroids, and scorched nebula clouds. "This war is far from over," she said. But today the galaxy has learned something crucial. Humans are not merely survivors. Humans are unstoppable when pushed. And the Virilians will never underestimate us again. Rio nodded, eyes reflecting nebula light. Captain, this battle, it wasn't just tactics. It was inspiration. Every species watching, they've seen what humans can do. Ilara allowed herself a brief smile. Good. Let them watch. Let them fear. But let them also hope. Hope that humanity's way is not conquest but cleverness, unity, and resilience. That is a power far greater than any weapon. In the command room, the stars beyond the viewport seemed to stretch endlessly. Humanity had faced annihilation, outwitted a superior armada, and inspired an entire galaxy to reconsider the nature of strength. Yet somewhere deep in the outer territories, Admiral Vox plotted. They win battles, but not the war. We will return. And when we do, we will show the galaxy that even humans can be crushed. Ilara, unaware of his words, stood at the viewport, gazing at the shattered fleet. Let them try, she whispered. Let every empire see us and remember, humans adapt. Humans endure. Humans will rise beyond imagination. And we will never, ever be underestimated again. The galaxy had seen humanity's brilliance in battle, their audacity in the face of impossible odds, and their unmatched adaptability. The war had escalated, but so had humanity's legend. Above the nebula and scattered wreckage, the stars themselves seemed to shimmer with approval, as if the universe recognized a species capable of rewriting the rules of engagement and destiny itself. The galaxy had begun to change. Humans, once dismissed as insignificant, now commanded respect, fear, and curiosity. Every star system knew their name, every fleet recalculated tactics with humans in mind, and every council whispered about their unpredictable brilliance. Humanity's victories had shifted the balance of power, but the final challenge loomed, the heart of the Virilian Empire. On the neutral world of Kalara Prime, the HSS Intrepid had become more than a ship. It was a hub of galactic diplomacy and strategy. Representatives of dozens of species gathered quietly, forming alliances that could rival the Armada of the Virilians. Humans orchestrated it all with precision. Captain Ilara Voss stood before the holographic council, displaying the latest intelligence. The Virilians are consolidating their forces at the core cluster, their capital system, she explained. They've rebuilt their fleets, fortified defenses, and are preparing for a strike that could obliterate any coalition we form. But they still think humans are predictable. They still do not grasp our ingenuity. Ambassador Zyril Koth, once skeptical, now a reluctant ally, leaned forward. You intend to challenge the heart of Virilian space. With what? Humans alone could not hope to survive. Ilara's eyes sparkled with determination. Not humans alone. Humans as leaders, humans as catalysts. We coordinate, we plan, we strike where it matters. The galaxy has already seen our tactics. Now, we combine that with every species that has a reason to resist Virilian dominance. Together, we are unstoppable. Preparations were meticulous. Supply lines were secured, cloaked fleets positioned, and decoy operations laid to confuse any Virilian sensors. Every allied race trained with human strategists, learning improvisation, misdirection, and the art of turning limitations into advantages. The galaxy itself seemed to bend around humanity's vision. But betrayal lurked in the shadows. The Zeltrax Syndicate, a mercenary species with their own ambitions, had infiltrated the coalition, selling information to the Virilians for profit. Their transmissions revealed weak points in the coalition's formation, a potential disaster if the Virilians acted on it. Rio Tanaka detected anomalies in the network. Captain, someone is feeding them our plans. If we strike now, the core cluster becomes a trap. Ilara's expression hardened. Then we don't strike where they expect. We change the battlefield entirely. Humanity doesn't fight in straight lines. We fight where they cannot anticipate, and we strike where it matters most. The coalition executed a daring feint. Cloaked human vessels and allied ships approached the core cluster from a direction the Virilians considered impossible. Meanwhile, human intelligence uncovered the Syndicate's betrayal. With surgical precision, the Intrepid intercepted and neutralized the mercenary signals, turning the betrayal into a trap. The Virilians, confident in their perceived advantage, activated orbital defense arrays and positioned dreadnoughts along anticipated vectors. But humans and their allies, anticipating this hubris, unleashed a sequence of maneuvers that shredded formations before the Virilians could react. Asteroids were hurled with calculated gravitational slingshots, resonance beams reflected into enemy hulls, and decoy fleets forced over a third of the Armada into catastrophic collisions. From the command bridge of Eclipse Citadel, Admiral Vox could only watch in disbelief. Every prediction, every simulation, failed. How is it possible? Ilara's voice cut across subspace, calm, unyielding, almost intimate. You underestimated us. You dismissed our ingenuity, our ability to unite, and our adaptability. Humans do not follow rules, they write them. The betrayal of the Syndicate, once a potential disaster, had been turned into an advantage. False intelligence fed the Virilians into traps, leaving dreadnoughts stranded and supply lines severed. Every Virilian maneuver was anticipated, countered, or amplified to their detriment. Amid the chaos, Ilara's tactical genius became legendary. Using a combination of temporal phase distortions and gravitational manipulation, the Intrepid delivered strikes that could destroy multiple capital ships in seconds. Entire segments of the Armada collapsed under human-directed chaos, their pride shattered, their formations meaningless. And then came the most shocking twist. Vox, desperate to salvage honor, personally entered the battlefield in a super dreadnought, the Prism of Eternity, a ship thought indestructible. Its energy shields could withstand any known weapon, its resonance cannons could annihilate fleets. Rio's face was pale. Captain, that ship, it's invulnerable. Ilara's eyes gleamed. Invulnerable only if you fight conventionally. Humans never fight conventionally. Using a combination of cloaked strike teams, subspace disruption and predictive decoy arrays, the Intrepid exploited the Prism's momentary vulnerability during weapon recharge cycles. In a burst of strategy, courage, and audacity, the humans and their allies struck simultaneously from multiple angles, tearing the ship apart in a spectacle that left the galaxy stunned. With the Prism destroyed, the Virilian core forces were in disarray. Their leadership shattered, fleets retreating, morale crumbling. Across the galaxy, species that had once trembled under Virilian rule began to rise. Humanity had not just won a battle, they had rewritten the rules of galactic power. Ilara stood on the bridge of the Intrepid, staring at the aftermath. Stars glittered like a witness to human brilliance. The galaxy now knows. Humans do not yield. Humans endure. Humans unite. And humans lead. Even in the corridors of distant empires, whispers spread. The humans were not merely warriors, they were innovators, diplomats, and apex strategists. And the galaxy would never, ever underestimate them again. Yet the question remained, could humanity maintain this unprecedented rise, or would the remnants of the Virilian Empire gather to challenge them once more? Ilara's calm voice carried a promise to the stars, let them come. Every challenge, every obstacle, every enemy only proves one thing. Humans do not break. Humans do not falter. And when the galaxy tests them, humans rise beyond all expectation. The stage was set for the final confrontation, the ultimate demonstration of human supremacy and ingenuity, a showdown that would echo across the stars for millennia. The galaxy held its breath. Systems that had once laughed at Earth now watched in awe as a single species had shattered the dominance of a centuries-old empire. But victory was not complete. The remnants of the Virilian hierarchy had retreated to the core spire, their planetary capital, a fortress of unimaginable scale, encased in layered energy shields and defended by fleets of dreadnoughts, interceptors, and orbital superweapons. The HSS Intrepid, humanity's spearhead, hovered at the edge of the core spire system. Its hull gleamed faintly in the glow of distant stars. Captain Ilara Voss surveyed the fleet of allied ships, a coalition of Araxi Zeltrax defectors and dozens of liberated systems. Every vessel carried hope, fear, and the weight of history. Rio Tanaka's fingers danced across the tactical display. Captain, even with our combined fleets, the core spire is nearly impenetrable. Its shields absorb conventional weaponry, and its defenses are layered with adaptive countermeasures. Any frontal assault would be suicide. Ilara's gaze was steel. Then we do not assault. We infiltrate. We outthink. Humans do not fight like others. We exploit weaknesses and we exploit assumptions. The Virilians think they are untouchable. They think no species could challenge their core. We will prove them wrong. The plan was audacious. The Intrepid would penetrate the outer defenses cloaked in quantum stealth, using the core spire's own defense systems against it. Human engineers had developed a series of adaptive subspace drones that could mimic fleet signatures, fooling enemy sensors and redirecting energy weapons to empty space. Every step had been calculated with predictive AI, human intuition, and audacity, a combination no alien mind had ever faced. The first phase began. Cloaked drones dispersed throughout the outer perimeter, triggering false signals that lured Virilian dreadnoughts into collisions and energy feedback loops. Asteroids, manipulated via gravitational anchors, collided with enemy ships, creating chaotic debris fields. Every move reinforced the illusion of a massive, overwhelming human fleet. Inside the core spire, Admiral Vox, defiant, furious, and desperate, barked orders through the crystalline command bridge. Do not underestimate them. They are clever, but fragile. Crush them before they reach the inner sanctum. But human brilliance was already inside his systems. The Intrepid's drones infiltrated subspace conduits, sabotaging shield generators and turning power reserves into reactive traps. Entire sections of the Virilian superstructure overloaded, creating cascading chain reactions of energy surges. Rio whispered, eyes wide. Captain, the core spire's shields are collapsing section by section. Their defenses are destroying themselves. Ilara's voice was calm, almost intimate in the chaos. Good. Humans do not smash through walls, we make the walls crumble on their own. Timing, patience, precision, and now the final strike. The Intrepid emerged from stealth into the heart of the core spire, deploying temporal phase disruptors and subspace torpedoes at the critical nexus of the Virilian command network. The explosion was cataclysmic but controlled, strategically calculated to disable without annihilating the planet entirely. Shockwaves tore through the capital's energy grids, and the once impenetrable fortress groaned under the strain. Admiral Vox, witnessing the destruction of his flagship and command nodes, stared in disbelief. This is impossible. How can a single species orchestrate such precision? Ilara's voice, calm and resolute, came through subspace comms. We are humans, Admiral. Fragile, perhaps, but unpredictable. Adaptive, enduring, relentless. Your empire underestimated us, and now the galaxy knows. The surviving Virilian forces surrendered. Across the galaxy, transmissions captured the moment. The supposedly invincible empire had been outmaneuvered, outsmarted, and overpowered, not by sheer force alone, but by human ingenuity, leadership, and daring. As the dust settled, the Intrepid's crew surveyed the core spire. Systems that had been hostile for millennia now lay in ruins, but the victory was not merely tactical, it was symbolic. Humanity had demonstrated that intelligence, adaptability, and courage could surpass brute strength, tradition, and assumed superiority. Ilara addressed the assembled fleet of allies. Today humanity has proven one truth: the galaxy does not belong to the strongest species, nor to the oldest empires. It belongs to those who can think, adapt, and endure. We did not conquer by fear. We conquered by ingenuity, unity, and determination. And now we have the choice: to build a galaxy where strength serves justice, innovation leads, and all species can thrive. Cheers, resonant across multiple species and transmitted through holographic networks, filled the void. For the first time in galactic history, a single species had reshaped the political, military, and social order of the stars, not through domination but through brilliance and leadership. In the quiet moments that followed, Ilara stood on the bridge of the Intrepid, gazing at the stars. Rio and Mira joined her, weary but unbroken. "Captain," Mira said softly, "the galaxy will never be the same." Ilara nodded. "No. And neither will humanity. We've survived impossible odds, challenged the strongest empire, and inspired countless systems to rise. But the journey is just beginning. This is the start of a new era. An era where humans are recognized, respected, and, if necessary, feared." Rio smirked. "So, the galaxy underestimated us for the last time." Ilara allowed herself a faint smile, her gaze fixed on the infinite expanse. "Exactly. From now on, humanity does not merely exist. Humanity leads. Humanity endures. Humanity triumphs." Above the core spire, the stars shimmered like witnesses to history. Across the galaxy, civilizations recalculated their strategies, alliances, and ambitions. Every empire had learned the same lesson: humans were not to be underestimated, mocked, or ignored. And somewhere, deep in the uncharted reaches, whispers of humanity's legend spread. The species that outsmarted fleets, toppled empires, and reshaped the stars: the humans. In the vast, indifferent cosmos, one truth had become undeniable: humanity had risen to the apex of ingenuity, resilience, and supremacy. The galaxy would never forget it,